Today, a meeting between Donald Trump and the Polish president at the White House is drawing major attention across the world, not only because of the personalities involved, but also because of the timing, the war in Ukraine, and the wider global shifts we're seeing in international politics. When a former president of the United States meets with the leader of a frontline NATO country like Poland, especially during one of the largest conflicts Europe has seen in decades, the implications go far beyond simple diplomacy. This isn't just about a handshake or polite words. It is about signaling to allies, adversaries, and the entire international community where America might be heading in the near future. Donald Trump has long had a reputation for bold moves, unconventional approaches, and a style of leadership that often disrupts the traditional order. For some, that is refreshing. For others, it is risky. But what cannot be ignored is the fact that Trump's presence in the political conversation is powerful, and his influence stretches not only within the United States, but across NATO countries and beyond. When Trump welcomed the Polish president into the White House, the symbolism was clear. Poland is not just another European state. It is on the front line of the war in Ukraine, sharing borders with both Ukraine and Belarus, and directly feeling the pressure of Russia's military aggression. By hosting this meeting, Trump positioned himself as someone willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with a key European partner, and that message resonates loudly in Moscow. To understand why this meeting matters, we need to break down the roles each player has in the current crisis. Poland has been one of the most active supporters of Ukraine since the war began in 2022. It has taken in millions of Ukrainian refugees, sent military aid, pushed the European Union for tougher sanctions on Russia, and consistently reminded NATO that a weak response to Moscow only encourages further aggression. For Poland, this war is not far away. It is right on its doorstep, shaping its security environment, its economy, and even its political debates. For the Polish president, standing next to Trump inside the White House is more than just a photo opportunity. It is a declaration that Poland is aligned with American leadership and expects strong guarantees of support in the face of Russian pressure. From Trump's perspective, the meeting also carries weight. During his presidency, Trump was often criticized for his mixed signals toward Russia. Some accused him of being too soft, while others argued he simply preferred a transactional style of diplomacy. But in this moment, with a war raging and with Russia openly challenging the Western order, Trump has an opportunity to reset perceptions. By meeting with the Polish president and sending a strong message of solidarity against Russia, he shows he is willing to back America's allies in Eastern Europe and push back against Moscow's aggression. This has important implications for the political campaign atmosphere in the U.S., where foreign policy and the future of NATO remain hotly debated issues. The choice of Poland is not accidental. If you look at the geography, Poland is not just a neighbor of Ukraine, it is a bridge between Western Europe and the East. Its roads, railways, and air bases have become crucial arteries for transporting weapons, humanitarian supplies, and other forms of assistance to Kyiv. Without Poland's cooperation, the logistics of helping Ukraine would be far more complicated. That is why Moscow pays close attention to Warsaw's policies, and why a meeting like this sends alarm bells to the Kremlin. It signals that the U.S., even through Trump, is reinforcing its ties with Poland, ensuring that Russia cannot divide NATO or exploit fractures between allies. There is also a deeper layer here about energy and economics. Poland has been one of the strongest voices calling for an end to European dependence on Russian gas. They warned for years that Moscow uses energy as a weapon, and the invasion of Ukraine proved them right. In recent months, Poland has accelerated investments in liquefied natural gas terminals, renewable energy, and defense industries, often in partnership with American companies. Trump's meeting with the Polish president, therefore, isn't just about military strategy. It is also about signaling economic cooperation that undermines Russia's leverage over Europe. For ordinary people, this may sound technical, but in simple terms, it means that countries like Poland are working hard to make sure Europe is not blackmailed by Russian oil and gas. Another important aspect is NATO itself. Trump has often criticized NATO allies for not spending enough on defense, but Poland is one of the few that consistently spends more than the required 2% of GDP. In fact, it is ramping up its defense budget to levels that make it one of the most heavily militarized nations in Europe. This plays into Trump's narrative perfectly, because he can point to Poland as an example of a country that takes its security seriously, unlike others that rely too heavily on American protection without contributing enough themselves. By aligning with Poland, Trump is not just sending a message to Russia, but also to Western Europe. If you want strong American backing, you need to invest in your own defense. The war in Ukraine has also highlighted the human cost, with millions displaced and countless lives lost. Poland has shown generosity by welcoming refugees, including women and children, providing shelter, education, and health care. This act of compassion is something the Muslim world can relate to, as hospitality toward the displaced and the vulnerable is a deeply valued principle in Islam. Many Muslim-majority countries have also experienced displacement due to wars, from Syria to Afghanistan to Palestine, and so the spirit of helping those in need connects Poland's actions to values Muslims cherish. Trump's recognition of Poland's role can therefore be seen as a broader acknowledgement of humanitarian responsibility, even if framed through the lens of politics and strategy. One cannot ignore the religious dimension in these conversations either. Poland, with its Catholic identity, has sometimes been seen as culturally conservative, and Trump has positioned himself as someone who respects traditional values. While this might seem distant from the Muslim perspective, there is actually common ground in the emphasis on faith, family, and protecting national sovereignty. In a world where secularism often dominates Western politics, the alignment of values between different faith communities, including Muslims, Catholics, and others, shows that there is a shared desire for moral grounding in governance. Trump's outreach to Poland taps into that current, intentionally or not, and it resonates across borders. When it comes to Russia, the message from this meeting is unmistakable. Moscow thrives on dividing its opponents, testing the resolve of NATO, and betting that Western countries will lose patience with long wars. By showcasing unity with Poland, Trump is effectively saying that the U.S. under his watch would not abandon Eastern Europe, would not tolerate aggression, and would not allow Russia to intimidate its neighbors. That is a message not only to Russia, but also to countries like China and Iran, who are closely watching how the West handles conflicts. A strong U.S.-Poland axis suggests that America still has the appetite to defend its allies, despite domestic debates about resources and focus. This meeting also highlights the importance of political signaling. Diplomacy is often about words and gestures as much as it is about concrete agreements. The optics of Trump standing beside the Polish president, discussing Ukraine, and warning Russia sends ripples through international media. It reassures Poland's citizens, boosts morale in Ukraine, and pressures Russia by showing that its actions have brought even more unity among its adversaries. For Trump, it also enhances his global statesman image at a time when he is campaigning domestically. Whether one supports or opposes him politically, there is no denying that this type of high-profile engagement strengthens his narrative of being a leader on the world stage. The global Muslim community also watches such developments carefully. Many Muslims in Eastern Europe, including those in Poland, have experienced challenges of integration, identity, and acceptance. When major geopolitical meetings take place, the hope is always that leaders recognize the diversity within their nations and protect minority rights while promoting stability. The broader Muslim world, from the Middle East to South Asia, is affected by how wars in places like Ukraine disrupt food supplies, grain exports, and global energy markets. Egypt, Pakistan, and many others depend heavily on Ukrainian and Russian grain. So Trump's meeting indirectly matters for Muslim-majority countries too, because decisions made in Washington and Warsaw affect prices of bread, fuel, and essential goods across the globe. Stability in Ukraine means stability in international markets, which in turn means relief for ordinary Muslim families struggling with inflation. The technological side of this meeting also deserves attention. Discussions about defense today are not limited to tanks and missiles. They include cyber warfare, satellite systems, and advanced surveillance. Poland has been investing in cutting-edge technologies to protect its infrastructure from cyber attacks, many of which are believed to originate from Russia. American cooperation on this front strengthens not just Poland, but the entire NATO defense grid. For a global audience, it is important to understand that modern wars are fought not only on battlefields, but also in cyberspace, where hackers can shut down banks, hospitals, or even government systems. Trump's embrace of Poland's concerns in this area signals a commitment to modern security challenges. For viewers trying to make sense of why all of this matters to them personally, here's the simple takeaway. A meeting like this is not just about two men in suits shaking hands. It is about whether wars expand or shrink, whether economies grow or collapse, whether refugees are helped or neglected, and whether powerful countries set examples that others follow. When Trump meets the Polish president and sends a strong message to Russia, it affects Ukraine's survival, Europe's unity, America's leadership role, and the broader stability of the world. And for Muslims, it also connects to values of justice, compassion, and standing with the oppressed. Because conflicts like Ukraine's are not isolated. They ripple into the lives of millions far away, influencing prices, migrations, and international relations that touch every corner of the globe.